January 1965, Daytona Beach, Florida. On paper, Ford had already won. Hidden inside a small engineering workshop was an engine unlike anything NASCAR had ever seen. It wasn't just more powerful than the competition, it represented an entirely different philosophy of American performance. Ford engineers believed it could dominate stock car racing for years, but fans would never witness its true potential. Before it could even compete in NASCAR's Premier Series, the engine was declared illegal. Officially, NASCAR insisted the decision was about the rulebook. Ford publicly accepted the verdict. But decades later, one question continues to divide historians, engineers, and racing fans. Did NASCAR simply enforce its rules? Or did the sport deliberately stop an engine that threatened to rewrite history? Because the Ford 427 SOHC, better known as the Cammer, became one of the fastest engines ever built that almost nobody saw race. And the real story begins long before the ban. 1963, 1964. American motorsport wasn't just entertainment. It was advertising at 180 miles per hour. The old saying, win on Sunday, sell on Monday, wasn't a slogan, it was a billion-dollar business strategy. Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler weren't simply building race cars. They were fighting for America's garages. By 1964, Chrysler had shocked NASCAR with its legendary 426 Hemi. The Hemi immediately proved itself as one of the most powerful stock car engines ever produced. Ford suddenly found itself behind. Losing races meant losing headlines. Losing headlines meant losing customers. Henry Ford II wasn't interested in second place. He wanted an answer. Not next season, immediately. So Ford engineers were given one mission: build something faster than the Hemi, whatever it takes. Instead of designing an entirely new engine, Ford engineers chose a different approach. They started with the proven 427 FE V8. Then they changed the one thing nobody expected: the cylinder heads. Instead of traditional push rods, Ford developed a single overhead camshaft system. Each cylinder head now had its own camshaft, driven by a long timing chain stretching across the front of the engine. This allowed much larger valves, higher engine speeds, better airflow, and dramatically improved breathing. The result wasn't just another V8, it was one of the most advanced American racing engines ever built. Official factory ratings listed the engine at around 616 horsepower, but virtually nobody inside the racing world believed that figure. Race-prepared versions reportedly produced well over 650 horsepower, with some drag racing combinations making even more. This wasn't evolution, it was a revolution. Ford engineers knew exactly what they had created: a Hemi killer. Ford expected the Cammer to appear in NASCAR almost immediately. Instead, everything stopped. NASCAR examined the engine, then delivered a decision that stunned Ford. The 427 SOHC would not be approved for competition. The official explanation focused on homologation rules. At the time, NASCAR required production-based engines. Officials argued that the SOHC design represented too great a departure from Ford's existing production engines. Ford strongly disagreed. From their perspective, the engine was still based on the production 427 FE block. Only the heads had changed. But NASCAR didn't see it that way. Without approval, the Cammer never reached the starting grid. Almost overnight, one of America's greatest racing engines became an outlaw. Ford had built its masterpiece, but NASCAR had effectively locked it outside the gate. This is where history becomes controversial. Some racing fans believe NASCAR simply enforced its rules fairly. Others believe something much bigger was happening. The Hemi had already transformed competition. If Ford introduced an even more powerful overhead cam engine, would every manufacturer be forced into an expensive engineering arms race? Costs would explode. Private teams might disappear. Competitive balance could collapse. NASCAR had spent years promoting affordable, production based racing. The camera threatened to push the sport toward prototype engineering. Was the decision really about fairness? Or about protecting NASCAR's future? No evidence has ever proven a conspiracy. But the timing ensured one thing. The Camry never got the chance to prove itself against Chrysler's Hemi on NASCAR's biggest stage. And that mystery still fuels debate today. Although NASCAR closed one door, another opened. Drag racing welcomed the Camry with open arms. In NHRA competition, the engine became legendary. Its incredible airflow allowed racers to produce astonishing horsepower, superchargers, nitromethane, extreme RPM. The Camry thrived. Soon, it became one of the most feared power plants in drag racing. Engine builders continued developing it for decades. Even after Ford officially ended production, ironically, the engine considered too radical for NASCAR became one of the most successful drag racing engines in American history. Sometimes history finds another racetrack. Today, the Ford 427 SOHC occupies a unique place in automotive history. It never won the Daytona 500. It never claimed a NASCAR championship. It never had the opportunity. Yet, its legend only grew stronger because of that absence. Some believe it would have dominated NASCAR. Others argue that racing is decided on the track, not on speculation. We'll never know. What we do know is this. Ford built one of the most technically ambitious V8 engines of the 1960s. NASCAR ruled that it didn't fit the series production-based regulations. Whether that decision saved competitive balance or prevented one of the greatest rivalries in racing history remains a matter of debate, not established fact. And perhaps that's why, 60 years later, people still talk about the Ford 427 Camry. Not because of the races it won, but because of the race it was never allowed to run.